Hi friends, welcome to the All Canadian Reptile Girl. I'm Annaliese, and happy Valentine's Day. Today,
That's it? There's no name gag, no bit, no silly joke, just happy Valentine's Day?
well yeah, it's Valentine's Day. It's a day of love.
Alright, there.
Yeah. Today, we will be touching on a question that most reptile caretakers ask themselves, myself included. Does my reptile love me? Let's find out. So, does your reptile love you? Let's assume that you are doing everything right in terms of care, socialization, enrichment, etc. Does your reptile love you? The short answer, yeah. No. Maybe a long answer is all of those at once. Probably. I know that might be a bit of an unsatisfying answer because I'm going to keep this extremely complex, complicated topic to a very high-level, surfacey explanation for this little bonus Valentine's Day video. Really diving into this requires a lot of consideration, and I am working on a deep dive into a bigger video or series of videos on reptile intelligence, which does include emotional intelligence. You know, that's the video I've been teasing for, what, 4 years now?
Seems about right.
Yep. It's a big topic with tons of research, and honestly, the data and conclusions are changing rapidly as more and more studies are conducted. For context, there have been more studies on reptile intelligence in the past decade or two than in the, hundreds of years prior from when we started studying this stuff and actually writing it down. We have a lot to catch up on. Also, a big part of why this question may have an unsatisfying answer in this video. There's a lot of ambiguity around this topic overall. If you ask someone who is not into reptiles if reptiles have emotions, they'd probably say, pretty confidently, no. And I get why you, me, dogs, cats, cows, mammals basically have a lot of expressive facial muscles and familiar body language that, as mammals, we can relate to, that help us to pick up on, or at the very least think we pick up on, emotional cues. Reptiles don't really have that, aside from overt, aggressive, or defensive displays, ow, or weird mating behavior. They generally seem pretty inscrutable, and it's understandable that the uninitiated would think them emotionless. Now, with the benefit of experience in caring for reptiles, caretakers can often pick up on the more subtle cues or body language, and that helps us to discern what's going on with our pet that would be invisible to one of the normies that don't keep reptiles. So that means that people who have lots of reptile keeping experience understand that reptiles feel, right? No. Not really. I mean, there are tons and tons of people who believe with their whole heart and being that their reptiles have emotions. But there are also many very experienced, very knowledgeable folks who maintain that reptiles don't and feel that there is science to back that up. Is it true? Well, it was, but now it's not. You see, a lot of the common prevailing knowledge about reptile intelligence comes from the fact that for decades, the scientific community believed that reptiles, with their so-called reptilian brain, lack the emotional complexity of mammals. Just saying that sounds a bit arrogant. Can we just say, just... Anyways, this stems from the outdated triune brain theory from the 60s, which divided the tetrapod brain, tetrapods are us, reptiles, birds, amphibians, any four-limbed vertebrate animal, into three possible separate parts: the reptilian complex, basic survival functions, the limbic system, emotions, and the neocortex, higher order thinking. The thesis here is that reptiles, as less evolved or sophisticated creatures, only really have the reptilian complex. The lack of limbic system or neocortex means that they're capable of thought, but really only as it relates to survival, and that they rely heavily on instinct. And this concept continues to prevail to this very day. The sad part is, it's wrong. Today's research shows that reptiles possess the same basic, or at least analogous structures as us. Moreover, brain regions interact in a much more intricate ways than the triune brain theory suggests. Even in mammals, emotional processing isn't confined solely to the limbic system. It's a product of dynamic networks that include all parts of the brain, like the amygdala, processing fear and pleasure, hippocampus, memory and information, and the hypothalamus, regulating bodily responses. The prefrontal cortex modulates emotions, decision-making, and social behaviors. These structures work together to process complex emotional states. Sensory input is evaluated, memories are accessed, and appropriate emotional responses are generated. If you go back far enough, we and reptiles share common ancestors. While reptile brains are structured differently from human brains, I mean, a lot has happened in the past hundreds of millions of years, the basic circuits governing survival and reward have been conserved through evolution. This means that emotional responses, even if simpler or expressed differently, are not unique to mammals. Even though their brains are simpler in some respects, they include homologous regions that perform similar emotional functions to those in ours, like basal ganglia, found in both reptiles and mammals. These are key for initiating and regulating behaviors, including those driven by emotion. There's dorsal ventricular ridge, DVR. Once thought unique to reptiles, this structure plays roles analogous to parts of the mammalian cortex, contributing to processing sensory information and modulating behavior. There are amygdala-like regions that process threats and rewards, which are the building blocks for emotional responses. Even neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, which are critical for mood regulation and reward in mammals, also operate in reptilian brains. This common chemistry suggests that reptile behavior is influenced by similar internal states. So, reptiles have all the hardware and chemical components to experience, modulate, and regulate emotions. Why would they have all of this emotional processing stuff if they don't feel emotions?
Good point.
Is there behavior that we could observe to help us answer this question? Well, let's look at a real-life scenario with my tegu jub, like right now. Tegus are known for being among the most intelligent non-avian reptiles, having studies that indicate their problem-solving abilities rival that of dogs. So, if reptiles and humans all have similar cells, structures, and chemicals in our brains whose functions include processing emotion, and jub, as arguably of a species that is considered one of the most advanced reptiles out there, we should have a good shot of observing some emotional behavior, right? So, does jub love me? Well, I mean, look at her. Like, really look. Let me use her behavior to help inform your opinion. Her body is relaxed, even though she is being held above the ground by quite a lot, an amount that would injure her if she fell directly straight down, which means that she's comfortable up here and at some level, at the very least, trusts me. And it's very unlikely for anyone, a human or animal, to be relaxed while they are nervous or stressed or tense or scared. Her eyes are not closed, but they were when I was holding her like this before, and probably after a couple minutes sitting here quietly with some like petting on her like back here, some massage to her neck. You know what, I'll just go to B-roll of that because she has one eye closed and she's probably going to keep the other one open just because. Now, if I were to get too close to her eye, she would close it. Lizards do because they don't want you to poke their eye. Oh, there we go. Can you see that? That eye's closed. Now turn. And that eye's closed. We're sleeping. Oh, we moved too much. Now we're awake again. Sorry about that. Now, if I were to get too close to her eyes when I was petting her face, she would close them out of fear of me possibly poking her eye. All lizards do. That would hurt. I'm sure you would too. So there is that to take in mind, but my fingers weren't near her eyes when she closed them. So, you know. And when I stop rubbing her face, she'll start tongue flicking. She might open them again if she's curious to see what I'm doing. And she might even huff at me to start petting her again. I love her. And then when I start again, she'll close her eyes. What are you doing? And she'll just drift off to sleep knowing I got her here. Barring extreme exhaustion, this is not something that you would do while you were tense or scared. At all. And what about this? This is Gus from Clint's Reptile Room, splayed out on his back getting tummy rubs. He chooses to do this, by the way, flipping over in a caretaker's hand to be motionless waiting for scritches. If you don't oblige, he'll roll back over, fuss a bit, glare at you, and flop over again. And repeat until you give him the belly rubs that he demands, nay, deserves. It's very sweet, and in the wild, this would never happen. First thing of being a wild animal is you don't show your stomach to things that might kill you. Like, that is so far removed from... Anyways, moving on. Were a wild version of Gus Gus or Jub Jub to ever find themselves held by something as large as I am, which in the wild would be a predator, they would be thrashing around, whipping their tail, using their strong jaws and razor-sharp teeth to try to injure me so that they can escape by any means necessary. Oh yeah, look at her desperate attempt to leave. She's not even worried about this thing. I could poke her. She doesn't care. But does this mean that Jub Jub really and truly loves me? Well, at this moment, maybe not as much as she could. Not because she's incapable of loving me or experiencing or expressing love, but because this past year has been hard on both of us. I haven't been able to work on fostering that love with her as much as I wanted to. Thanks, long COVID. And thanks Jubs' uterine cancer. But knowing that she has the same brain parts and chemical soupy goodness to experience and process emotions that I have, yes, I think she does, in her own way. And that love and trust allow me to do some pretty uncomfortable stuff to her while treating her very serious illness last year. Poking, prodding, injecting, restraining, opening her mouth against her will. For her to not only permit me to do all of these uncomfortable or even painful things at that time, but to still view me now, after all of that, as someone safe enough that she wants to cuddle with? Well, look, I'm not saying that Jub Jub's love is as complex, nuanced, or sophisticated as ours. I'm also not saying it's not. Her learning curve is not only affected by her natural ability to learn, but also the amount of time she's exposed to me and my loving actions towards her, and vice versa. My few hours a week socializing are nothing compared to the millions of years of evolutionary programming in her DNA. That, in tegus at least, didn't prioritize the need for complex emotion for survival. But I think that's kind of changing. And it's going to sound odd at first, but trust me here, it'll make sense in a minute. Have you ever heard about the domestication of foxes? I know that sounds like the opening to a very bad joke, but please, bear with me. Honestly, who among you has never said that you'd like to have a pet fox as a pet? Come on, it's cat software, running on dog hardware, it's bright orange. How awesome is that? They're little chaos machines, more so than an orange brain cell. Well, there has been a breeding project that started in the 60s-ish, and what they've done is observe wild foxes in captivity interacting with their keepers, and selectively breeding the ones who seem more tame or friendly when the keepers would enter their enclosures, the ones less afraid of the humans. The selected foxes were used for breeding in the hopes of passing those nicer genes on, and guess what? Over decades of selective breeding, it seems to be working. Also, it seems that there are physical characteristics too, like bigger ears, eyes, around her face. The nice genes also make them cuter? What? And I think that's where we are with reptiles like Jubs. Right now, tegus in captivity are emotionally still very close to wild tegus, and they don't need no humans. But the longer we not only have them as our pets, but the longer we foster caring relationships and interactions based on safety, trust, and caring affection, and breeding the ones with those traits, the closer we will be to getting tegus passing along the humans are fun and nice to hang out with, and I really like this one in particular gene. And I do believe that sooner or later, probably very much later, the question of does my snake, gecko, bearded dragon, tortoise, or tegu love me will be as silly as asking if my dog or cat loves me. Obviously, yes. And for those keepers who focus on choice-based handling in the ball pythons or boas or corn snakes, beardies, turtles, whatever, who choose to come over and interact with them without a food reward or needing a certain resource, are even closer to that point. Well, folks, that's my take on reptile love this Valentine's Day for you all to see. What do you think? Does she love me, or has Stockholm Syndrome set in and is just used to my presence and has resigned herself to hours of snuggle time with me that she secretly does not really enjoy in any way. Does your reptile love you? Or even like you? Why or why not? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Please be nice. A huge, grateful, heart-filled thank you to my patrons for sending some financial love to me and my reptiles. Feel free to add your support and send your financial affection instead of chocolates. Or send chocolates too.
Your reptiles can't eat chocolates.
But I can.
Okay.
Oh, what if I just want some chocolate?
Fine. What? Okay.
Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Wait, why? Why? You can't wait 10 more seconds to get all wiggly? Hold on. No, don't death roll. Goodness. What are you doing?
Where I started. This is where I wanted to be. Thank you.
Anyways, please subscribe if you are not already. Hit that like button. The interaction really does help out my channel. Go hug your reptiles because it's good for your emotions at the very least and also good for theirs at the very best. And as always, remember to nurture all nature. Bye!